Welcome to Seniors Money, your ultimate guide to financial security in your golden years. I'm Michael, and today we're diving into a game-changing announcement that could reshape retirement for millions of Canadians. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has unveiled a monumental increase in old age security OAS, promising a staggering $3,290 per month for all Canadian seniors. This isn't just another policy update. It's a financial lifeline that could transform your retirement dreams into reality. In a world where inflation keeps climbing and living costs seem to have no ceiling, this news feels like a breath of fresh air. But is it too good to be true? Will this massive boost really land in your bank account? Or is it just another political promise that will evaporate after the next election? Throughout this video, we'll dissect every aspect of this groundbreaking announcement, from the fine print you need to know to the potential impact on your retirement lifestyle. Before we dive in, let me share a quick story. Last month, I met Margaret, a 72-year-old retiree who had to make the heartbreaking decision to sell her family home. After 40 years of cherished memories, rising property taxes and utility bills forced her hand. With tears in her eyes, she told me, "Michael, I never thought I'd have to choose between keeping my home and affording my medication." Stories like Margaret's are all too common, which is why today's announcement could be a turning point for seniors across Canada. Now let's get into the meat of this policy. Trudeau's plan isn't just a minor adjustment, it's a complete overhaul of the OAS system. Currently, the maximum OAS payment is about $686.56 per month, and that's only if you meet all the eligibility criteria. The proposed increase to $3,290 per month represents a jaw-dropping 379% increase. To put that into perspective, it's like your monthly income jumping from $2,000 to $7,580 overnight. This isn't just a raise, it's a retirement revolution. But why such a massive increase, and why now? The answer lies in the changing demographics of Canada. By 2030, it's estimated that 1 in 4 Canadians will be 65 or older. This silver tsunami is putting unprecedented pressure on our social security systems. At the same time, the cost of living has skyrocketed. In major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is over $2,000. Add in food, utilities, and healthcare costs, and it's easy to see why so many seniors are struggling to make ends meet. Trudeau's announcement also comes at a time of heightened political tension. With an election on the horizon and his Liberal Party trailing in the polls, critics argue that this OAS boost is more about winning votes than genuine concern for seniors. They point to the timing, just months before the expected election date, as evidence that this is a calculated political move rather than a well-thought-out policy. However, the Prime Minister paints a different picture. In his press conference, he emphasized the moral obligation to support those who built this country. "Our seniors have given Canada the best years of their lives," he stated. "They've weathered recessions, fought in wars, and raised generations of hard-working Canadians. Now, as they face the challenges of aging, it's our duty to ensure they can live with the dignity and comfort they deserve." Trudeau also pointed to economic benefits beyond just supporting seniors. By putting more money in retirees' pockets, the government hopes to stimulate local economies. Seniors tend to spend more on goods and services in their communities, everything from restaurants and shops to healthcare providers. So in theory, this OAS boost could act as an economic jumpstart, particularly for small towns and rural areas with higher senior populations. But let's talk numbers. How will Canada afford this massive increase? The total cost of the program is estimated to be around $60 billion annually. To put that in context, Canada's entire federal budget for 2023 is about $452.3 billion. So this OAS expansion would account for roughly 13% of the country's total spending, a substantial chunk by any measure. The government proposes several ways to foot the bill. First, they plan to raise the corporate tax rate from 15% to 18% for companies with annual profits exceeding $1 billion. This move is expected to generate about $15 billion in revenue. Next, they're introducing a luxury tax on items like yachts, private jets, and cars priced over $100,000, which could bring in another $5 billion. But the most controversial funding source is a proposed wealth tax on individuals with a net worth over $20 million. This would be a 1% annual tax on their total assets, not just income. While this would only affect about 0.1% of Canadians, it's projected to raise a substantial $10 billion. Critics argue that this could drive wealthy individuals out of Canada, taking their investments with them. Supporters, however, see it as a fair way to redistribute wealth in a country where the top 1% holds over 25% of the total wealth. The remaining funds would come from government bonds and a reallocation of existing budget items. For example, the Liberals suggest scaling back some infrastructure projects and defense spending to prioritize this senior-focused initiative. It's a series of tough choices that reflect a significant shift in national priorities. Now you might be wondering, Michael, this all sounds great, but who exactly qualifies? That's an excellent question, and it's where things get a bit complex. Under the current system, you need to be 65 or older, a Canadian citizen or legal resident, and have lived in Canada for at least 10 years since turning 18. The full $686.56 is only available to those who've lived in Canada for 40 years after age 18. The proposed changes aim to simplify this. In Trudeau's words, every Canadian senior will receive $3,290 per month, period. No complex formulas, no prorating based on years lived here. If you're a Canadian citizen or permanent resident age 65 or older, this money is yours. This simplified approach is designed to cut through bureaucratic red tape and ensure that seniors get the support they need without jumping through hoops. But there's more to the story. In an interesting twist, the government is considering extending this benefit to younger Canadians who are caring for elderly parents. The idea is that many people in their 50s and early 60s are leaving the workforce to become full-time caregivers. This not only impacts their current income, but also reduces their future OAS and Canada Pension Plan (CPP) benefits. Under the proposed caregiver credit, these individuals could receive up to 50% of the new OAS amount, about $1,645 per month, to help offset these financial hits. This expansion to caregivers highlights a growing recognition of the sandwich generation, those caught between raising kids and caring for aging parents. By providing financial support, the government hopes to alleviate some of this pressure, allowing more people to provide in-home care. This, in turn, could reduce the strain on Canada's healthcare system, particularly long-term care facilities that were hit hard during the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking of healthcare, the OAS increase doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of a broader package aimed at enhancing seniors' quality of life. Another key component is a 25% increase in the Canada Caregiver Credit, a tax credit that helps offset the costs of caring for a dependent relative. There's also a proposal to make all prescription drugs free for Canadians 65 and older, a move that could save some seniors thousands of dollars a year. Mental health is another focus area. The government plans to fund a national network of senior-focused counseling services, acknowledging that issues like loneliness and depression are major concerns in this demographic. They're also boosting grants for senior centers, libraries, and community colleges to offer more programs tailored to older adults, from art classes to technology workshops. But not everyone is celebrating. Some economists warn that injecting this much money into the economy could fuel inflation, which is already running high. Their concern is that as seniors have more to spend, businesses will raise prices to capitalize on this increased buying power. This could create a vicious cycle where the extra OAS money is quickly eaten up by higher costs, leaving seniors no better off than before. There are also worries about labor market effects. Canada, like many countries, is grappling with worker shortages in various sectors. Some business leaders fear that this generous OAS package will incentivize more people to retire early, exacerbating these shortages. They argue that instead of expanding OAS, the government should focus on programs that encourage seniors to stay in the workforce longer, such as tax breaks for companies that offer flexible hours or phased retirement plans. Indigenous leaders have also voiced concerns. While they welcome the OAS increase, they point out that it doesn't address some unique challenges faced by Indigenous seniors. Many live in remote communities with much higher living costs and limited access to services. They're calling for an additional northern and remote supplement to the OAS similar to what's offered to workers in these areas. There's also debate about intergenerational fairness. Some younger Canadians feel that this policy, while well-intentioned, puts an undue burden on their generation. A recent poll found that 68% of Canadians under 35 are worried that higher taxes to fund this OAS expansion will make it even harder for them to afford homes or start families. There are calls for a more balanced approach, perhaps coupling the OAS increase with initiatives like student debt relief or first-time homebuyer grants. Environmentalists, too, have mixed feelings. They appreciate that financially secure seniors may invest in things like home solar panels or electric vehicles. However, They're disappointed that the policy doesn't include any green incentives, such as extra benefits for seniors who make eco-friendly choices. Some have proposed ideas like an additional green OAS payment for those who downsize to energy-efficient homes or use public transport. Now let's talk global context, because Canada isn't operating in a vacuum. This OAS expansion would make Canada's senior benefits among the most generous in the world. In the US, the average monthly Social Security payment is about $1,827 USD, or roughly $2,300 CAD. In the UK, the full state pension is £802.73 per month, translating to about $1,300 CAD. Even in countries known for strong social safety nets, like Sweden and Norway, monthly pensions average around $2,000 CAD. This international comparison raises both opportunities and concerns. On the positive side, Canada could become a magnet for well-off retirees from other countries. Particularly the US, these snowbirds often bring substantial savings and could boost industries like real estate and tourism. However, there are fears that an influx of foreign seniors could strain healthcare and other services, especially if they haven't paid into the Canadian system throughout their working lives. There's also a diplomatic angle. Some experts believe that by setting this new standard, Canada is implicitly challenging other wealthy nations to step up their support for seniors. In an era where populations are aging globally, this could spark a sort of race to the top in elder care. Others worry it might lead to resentment or even retaliatory policies, like higher taxes on Canadians who retire abroad. So to every senior watching, whether this exact plan comes to fruition or not, know that your worth is being powerfully affirmed. Your story, your struggles, your enduring potential, all are at the heart of a nation's bold vision. Through this debate, Canada is telling you and the world an emphatic truth. Far from being a burden, you are the bedrock on which a more compassionate, age-inclusive future will be built. This is Michael from Seniors Money, where we believe that every stage of life deserves dignity, security, and the chance to thrive. Thank you for joining me in this deep dive into a policy that's not just about numbers, but about the very soul of our nation. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, in the story of Canada's progress, seniors aren't just characters. You're the authors, writing chapters that will guide us for generations to come.